In this video, I'll give a brief outline of the Ottoman Empire's wars in Mesopotamia, now Iraq, Sinai, Palestine, and the Caucasus Mountains. Following the Russian declaration of war on the Ottoman Empire on the 1st of November 1914, the British and the French declared war on the 5th of November. That same day, Indian Expeditionary Force D landed at the head of the Arabian Gulf and occupied Basra, the provincial capital, on the 22nd of November. In March 1915, the British government sent more Indian Army units to Mesopotamia and ordered the force to advance up the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to capture Baghdad. The Ottomans reinforced the army in Mesopotamia and halted the Indian advance at Ctesiphon, just south of Baghdad, in November. The Indian force then fell back to Kut. The Ottomans besieged the town for 5 months. Kut fell on the 29th of April 1916. 10,000 Indian and 3,000 British troops surrendered. Only 2,000 survived their captivity. The Indian Army force was rebuilt during 1916, while the Ottomans were forced to transfer troops from Mesopotamia to other fronts. The Indian and British troops began their advance in December 1916, recaptured Kut on February 1917, Baghdad on 11th of March, Fallujah a few days later, Tikrit in September. Following the Ottoman armistice on the 30th of October 1918, the British occupied the oil-rich district of Mosul on the 3rd of November. Now I'll briefly discuss the Sinai-Palestine campaign. The campaign was fought by a mostly British Empire force, including Indian, British, French, Australian, New Zealand, coloured South African and West Indian troops, and Arab irregulars. The initial British objective was to defend the Suez Canal, vital for shipping between Britain and India. To advance beyond the canal required the British to establish a supply route across the Sinai Desert. The Ottomans held the vital town of Gaza in 2 battles in March and April 1917, but were defeated in the 3rd Battle of Gaza in October-November 1917. Following this breakthrough, the British captured Jerusalem in December. Meanwhile, the Arab tribes led by Hussein, the Sharif of Mecca, had rebelled against Ottoman rule in 1916. At Megiddo on the 19th of September 1918, 35,000 Ottoman troops, low-end supplies, ammunition and morale, faced almost 70,000 British Empire troops and around 4,000 Arab irregulars. The British force, supported by an intense artillery barrage, broke the Ottoman line, and cavalry divisions supported by aircraft rode through the gap and made a rapid advance. Amman, now the capital of Jordan, was captured on the 25th of September. Damascus, now the capital of Syria, fell on the 2nd of October. The Ottoman government negotiated an armistice, which came into effect on the 30th of October. Now I'll outline the Ottoman experience during the Caucasus campaign. In 1914, the Caucasus Mountains that bridge Europe and Asia formed the boundary between the Ottoman and Russian empires. The Russians invaded Ottoman territory following their declaration of war. The Ottoman Third Army counterattacked in the winter of 1914-15 with the aim of capturing Sarikamish and cutting the Russian supply line. About 150,000 Ottoman soldiers were deployed, but they were poorly equipped, lacked adequate winter clothing, and suffered a typhus epidemic. This resulted in a 75% casualty rate. The Russians made some cautious advances in 1915 and 16, occupying Ottoman Armenia. Following the Communist Revolution at the end of 1917, the Russians and the Ottomans signed an armistice in December. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, signed by the Ottomans, Germans, Austrians and Russians in March 1918, restored the Ottoman Empire all the territory that had lost in the Russo-Turkish War of 1877-78. Enver Pasha, the war minister and de facto Ottoman leader, had in early 1918 recaptured the territory in the Caucasus that had been lost to the Russians. In September 1918, as the Battle of Megiddo was about to be fought in Palestine, half the Ottoman army was in the Caucasus, fighting Armenians who declared their independence and capturing on 14th September the Baku oil fields on the shores of the Caspian Sea.